Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to another edition of Frontline News, where we bring you news and conversations from the front lines of urban America and beyond. Good evening, live and direct from Baltimore City, Maryland. I am also joined by my co-host. Hopefully she can hear me. Can you hear me, co-host?
Yes, I can.
Co-host.
Can I be the host, co?
What? That don't even sound right.
Well,
I don't even want to
it's
get
backwards day. It's National Backwards Day.
National Backwards Day?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. Hold on, I gotta go back out for a second here. Hold on. Bear with me, folks. Did you hear any music?
Huh?
Did you hear any music coming in?
I did. I don't now.
Okay. All right, so it is working. So there we go.
I heard hand claps.
Another edition of Frontline News. I just love that. I'm wishing I could do some of the other buttons, like maybe we will. Did you hear the boos? Did you hear the boos?
I definitely heard the boos.
Are you there? Did I mess up somehow again?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Why am I not hearing nothing? Talk.
Can you hear me?
Hold on. This always happens. I always set this thing up, and my little sound effects box over here don't want to work right. Hold on here. I talk now.
Huh?
I don't know why I can't hear you. What's going on here that I can't hear you tonight? Give me a second here. For some reason, I cannot hear you.
Do you need to exit out and come back in?
Oh, there you go. Now I can hear you. Okay. Gotta get the sentence right. As Patrick used to say when he used to do the radio show, he put his finger in the wrong hole. I put my finger in the wrong hole. Good evening, everyone. Sorry that technical difficulties. And Yolanda, for some reason, you're freezing, of course, because you're mobile. Make sure your Wi-Fi is off. You could be jumping in and out of Wi-Fi. Look, dropped your ice.
Yeah, how you know? Got it.
But family, welcome to another edition of Frontline News, where we bring you news and conversations from the front lines of urban America and beyond. We have a great show for you tonight. We want to talk about the PLIOTS and TIFS of this city. I don't know. Should we change it to the pirates and TIFS of the city?
Yeah.
But we've been looking at this, and of course, when you type in the words pilot, especially Baltimore City pilots, and Google search engine, you get stories that go way back. So we have information that goes way back in reference to TIFs and pilots. And pilots are taxes in lieu of financing, and TIFs are taxes in lieu of financing. And one person's name who I keep mentioning a lot of, I keep telling you, this gentleman by the name I found out today they used to call him Big John. Big John. Big John, a.k.a. John Pakarakis. We're going to talk about him because John Pakarakis is truly the progenitor. Ooh, big words. Progenitor. Ooh, look at
Progenitor.
me. Look at me. Big words. He's the one that actually has brought to fruition the conversation of pilots, and he's kind of the navigator. And I'm going to use the words that they use here on the Baltimore Sun. They said his servants. They said his servants. I'm not using that word to be disparaging of our Maryland General Assembly members, but the Baltimore Sun used the word servants.
Wow.
So they said that he utilized his servants. So the master, Master Big John, used his servants in Annapolis, the Maryland General Assembly, to grant Baltimore full authority to negotiate payment in lieu of finance tax deals, or what they're known as pilots. Yolanda, your volume is like really loud.
Huh?
Is your window down? Is your window down?
Say that again?
Is your window down?
No.
Because all I hear is truck noise. I don't know where you sitting at your phone. All we hear is sounds like you get ready to do Evel Knievel and jump over a mountain.
It was called heat.
Oh, your heat was on. Okay. Well, you're blowing heat this way. So, but it's going to be heat tonight, family. Don't go nowhere. I'm telling you, we're going to talk about the $400 million in proposed money that's being asked for this project called the Sail in the downtown in the harbor area to take over the old promenade, the Inner Harbor Promenade. And you know, the Inner Harbor Promenade has a history, Yolanda. The reason why I love the old promenade so much is because that's where Drew Hill came from. That was the start of Drew Hill, the fudge factory. And many of y'all remember, and y'all could chime in and shout in, you know, put your comments in. How many of y'all remember Drew Hill and the fudge factory and seeing the whole crew down there, Cisco and all of them, you know, making fudge and breaking out into song? Like, that's the first time that I ever seen them down there, and they were amazing down there. I knew they were going to go somewhere. I just didn't know that Drew Hill would take it that far the way that they did. But again, I don't know how many of y'all remember the Fudge Factory and the start of Drew Hill. And majority of the members came out of that Fudge Factory. So I think maybe
we used to go down there just so we could see them.
Yeah, just to go down there. I mean, it was entertaining. That's when the promenade really was jumping off, and had businesses that were still reasonable to go down there and patronize. But so let's get right into this. Let's do some housekeeping really quick. Of course, we got to thank blackusa.news for allowing us to have this platform and to be able to come and talk to you this evening. Of course, it's also being brought to you by people empowered by the struggle. We are a one-stop shop for all struggles. Doesn't matter what your situation may be. If you've reached a roadblock in life in reference to your struggles, give us a call. Allow us to advocate, navigate. I like that. Advocate, navigate. We got to find another one in there, so it really rhymes.
Negotiate.
Negotiate. Agitate. There you go. Agitate. All the takes. Right. All the takes. That's right. But give us a call. I'm telling you, folks, especially Yolanda. Like, I got to give credit where credit is due. You know, our director, our CEO is a beast. You know, and there's a reason why they know her in almost every office from Baltimore City to Annapolis. That's because they're afraid of her. Tell you the truth, I'm afraid of her too, family. I'm afraid of her.
Really? Really?
She scares me.
Wow.
She bullies me, family. She bullies me. No, look.
I think we should take this up to the presidential house.
look. Oh, I don't know. They got to pull out the National Guard for you.
Well, you know they're gonna have to do what they got to do.
They do a January 6th or something. you come through the door. You're a one-man army going up in the White House. So I can only imagine. So, but family, all kidding aside, again, if you need us, you know where to find us. We are at pbts.org, online.org, or you can get in contact with us. We are a 24-hour operation. We don't take off for your birthday, my birthday, nor Jesus' birthday, nor the apocalypse. I think we'd still be serving people even during the apocalypse. Don't you think so? During Armageddon?
I don't know. It depends on what kind of apocalypse it is. It's the one with the zombies. You on your own. Don't call us.
Or World War III, even through World War III, which is get ready.
Yeah, you call us doing that. But if you got that zombie apocalypse, coming, don't call us.
Don't call us, right?
Don't call us.
Don't call us. We be in the bunker somewhere. So, but again, family, we're 24 hours, 7 days a week, 366 days out of the year, not 65, 66 days of the year. Give us a call, 443-355-8014. And if you'd like to donate to us, again, we are a nonprofit 501c3. Any of your donations are tax deductible. We do zero grant chasing. I can tell you that. We are not grant chasers. We don't want to be bought and sold. We don't want to be handled. We want to be able to do the work. So we really rely on truly organic, from the ground, from the community, truly genuine donations to be able to support what we do out in the organization. We got 2 raggedy cars.
Can I say my spill?
Go ahead.
For 6 cents a day, you can help a family in Baltimore City.
You always say that, Sally Struthers. Look, but look, family.
We're gonna make that a part of people empowered by the struggle.
We need more than 6 cents a day, though. We gotta figure that out. You gotta stop saying 6 cents.
We got some high quality.
For $1 a day, you can help PBTS.
I don't know. That's $30 a month. People are like, oh my God, that's $30 a month. You cutting in somebody's marijuana.
Oh goodness, but it's just great to be back with y'all, family. We took a week off last week. We had so much going on, especially we're ramping up things in reference to the election. I got to give a shout out to those out there who have been watching and supporting and really paying attention to what I've been doing on the radio show on Saturdays on WFBR. I just want to thank everybody. Again, it's really about trying to.
I think I need parts in that show too.
And you're more than welcome to come on there, especially. Well, again, once you register, it's going to be an issue because of equal time. So, and if I give you a half an hour on the show, I got to give a half an hour to everybody else. So we got to make this quick. This might be this Saturday where you come on and you talk this Saturday, but one of the things I've been doing with that particular show is just trying to tell folks how we got here, talking about the history, why we got here. One thing that I've really have honed in on is that we don't know how to be citizens. We don't know how to do our citizenry duty, registering to vote, being on jury duties, poll watching, supporting a candidate, testifying, in committee hearings against different pieces of legislation.
Yeah, I hope you weren't talking about testifying against individuals. We don't do that.
No. Being judges, being election judges, these things. And
one of the most important ones is what, Jason?
What's that?
Censor.
Oh, census. That's right. The census, right. Being a part of the census, because that's where our federal dollars come in at. And I know a lot of people say, I don't want to talk to no census buo. I ain't talking to the census buo because the census buo, wants too much information. They want to know too much of my information. Nah, we got it. In the census
if you actually see with me, I do mine's totally different. I add people on to generate more money for our community. So I don't think people understand the census and why it's there. And again, that comes from censor ignorance. Let's put it census ignorance.
Census
just like political ignorance.
Or census apathy. Census apathy. And we have to really understand these processes. Family, also, while the show is going on, the ticker down on the bottom, please make sure you try to support one of our local businesses, Black-owned businesses. These businesses are around. They're paying for the pro service of StreamYard. This is not the cheap service of StreamYard, the free service of StreamYard. So please, they help to make all of this possible and allow all of these different shows to come on, including the Grammy nominated Donnie Glover show that comes on at 9 o'clock Monday through Friday. And again, there's been some powerful shows on his show as well. But make sure you support.
He haven't invited me on his show either. I'm feeling a certain kind of way.
So you really gonna do that now? You really gonna call him out right now while we on air?
Yes,
right?
I am, Donnie.
The views and opinions of the guest and host are not of those. No, but family, all jokes aside, we have some serious business to discuss tonight. And really and truly, it's about this absurd proposal to utilize $400 million of public dollars for a new construction project to take the place of the Inner Harbor Promenade, which is the old location where Wrigley's, believe it or not, was at. I believe Hooters is on the other side of the building. There's all kinds of businesses that have been there. Of course, because of the design and just the lack of upkeep, the former owners went into foreclosure. Now it's under a new ownership, MCB Real Estate, with I believe it's one of the co-founders, David Bramble, is one of the ones that is behind this. Now, I keep calling MCB Real Estate really and truly a front agency to me, because when
I have a question for you, Jason.
Uh-huh.
How is that any of our business, any of our concern? How is that anything to do with taxpayers and tax breaks? That they want to do renovation and it falls on us. I need a clear understanding of why everything falls on the taxpayers.
Well, let's talk about it. So it says that the Baltimore Sun is reporting that David Bramble actually said that they estimate that $300 million would be needed for the promenades and public walk spaces to be designed as this proposal, the sale it's called. And it looks weird. It's totally different in reference to any design that we've ever seen. And I think in some cases it's like you hear these stories in the Bible about the Tower of Babylon, and of course they wanted to build a tower that reached the skies, to reach the heavens, to reach God. And in some cases, with each one of these designs that are in many cases using taxpayers' dollars, you're seeing, kind of these greater and bigger and better and more spacious and more luxury and more amenities, and it just seems like it's just, balls to the walls. Let's put it all out there, and let's use the public dollars to make it happen. But in this situation, they're asking for $300 million for the promenades and public spaces to be designed, and an additional $100 million to reconfigure Pratt, Light, and Conway streets for the new pattern, because they're going to have, it's supposed to be, I believe, two buildings. One's the main building, which is going to have office spaces and restaurants. And I even heard possible an amphitheater. I don't know how true the amphitheater is, but then there's also going to be
how many amphitheaters we gonna need in Baltimore City?
I don't know. I really don't know.
I'm thinking that they're putting one, because I was looking at the construction. They're putting one in Hanlon, supposed to be, and they supposed to be putting one in Drew Hill Park. So how many amphitheaters do we need? Oh, right. Okay.
And I didn't even know we again. I don't understand the purpose of an amphitheater other than maybe some opera or some sort of maybe bluegrass folk music event that I've always ever seen those things kind of utilized for.
So we supposed to walk on the water to we're gonna be like Jesus. We can walk on water to the amphitheater.
Take the water taxi or the free charm circulator. That only serves the white community. I mean, let's be realistic here, family. And again, if you love to comment, we'd love to hear you comment. Put your comments in. We'll also share the link as well if you want to join the conversation. We'd love to hear from the public in reference to this. But doing the history, and I told Yolanda, I have skin in the game because I actually fought against the whole Harbor East deal with Michael Bealy and all of them with Exelon. And then there's things that have come out years later that I didn't know about. Like, for instance, because of the antitrust rules and the way that they were merging all of these electric companies when Exelon decided to merge with Constellation Energy, part of the agreement was with the federal government was that they were going to move their location to Baltimore. So they were forced to do that. So technically, if we didn't give them anything at all, they'd have had to spend their own money to build Exelon. But instead, they ended up getting quite a bit of tax breaks in reference to the whole Harbor East deal. So again, we were fighting against Michael Beatty at the time. It was an upscale development, 27 acres right there at Fells Point, Harbor East. They actually ended up getting they managed to secure $107 million in tax in lieu of financing. And we fought them on that. We didn't win. Now it turns out that recently, as of 2022, an article came out in the Brew that said that the Board of Estimates basically allocated more money because of over expense run-ins that they had with the project. So they ended up going over budget, what they call, quote unquote, unexpected cost overruns for the bridge. And I told y'all that we were paying for that bridge with Department of Transportation money. They took money out of DPW. We got potholes everywhere, sidewalks broken everywhere. You know, the streets are raggedy. You just heard it as Yolanda's driving down the road. All you heard was clack. Thanks
for letting them know how raggedy the bottom of my truck is. Right. Thank you.
But it's not just the raggedy of the truck. The truck is not really raggedy. What it is, the roads are so
it's raggedy now after hitting all them bumps in Baltimore City.
And I heard you heard it. I know everybody heard and witnessed. You hit a big one earlier when you was driving, so that was kind of like So it sounded like an
question for you.
Yeah.
Is this like the new slave trade? Because off of the backs of poor people, redevelopment is being done off the taxpayers' hard-earned dollar that they can't afford now. It's like the new slave trade, how they used us for free labor. So now they're using us for our money. So,
I don't know. Let's get into this because, again, there's some wording here in the Baltimore Sun that sounds like we back at a plantation, or that the Maryland General Assembly, and I'm pretty sure there's some Black Caucus members in there, that are doing some samboing for Mr. Big John. And we're going to get into that conversation as well. And I don't care how people feel about it. At the end of the day, I keep saying to folks that even though we don't pay property taxes straight out of our pocket, so we don't have taxation with representation, our tax dollars come from our landlords. Our landlords are paying the property taxes. And it's that money that's coming out of Uptown that's going into downtown that unfortunately is never seeing Uptown in reference to community development, community revitalization.
Well, Jason, and also a whole bunch of other taxes in the city. We got city taxes. We have bottle taxes. We have bag taxes. We have
cell phone taxes, additional taxes.
We have taxes. We got mama taxes, papa taxes, baby taxes, right? Like we are taxed up the wazoo.
Right.
We got soda cap tax, chip taxes. Like it's a lot. So we should be considered taxpayers because we pay city, state, and federal taxes.
Right. But at the end of the day, as I told you, the only tax that really kind of counts here in reference to the main coffers is concerned is property taxes.
Yeah, that's what they want you to believe,
pay,
but I'm pretty sure
but that's right.
Yeah, but Jason, they generate more money off of those other taxes that we spend every day. Cigarette tax.
Of course, but
every
the
day
main
they generate more money off of that.
The main structure and the main budget is really consists of those property taxpayers. Although there are other taxes services and fees, they go to different services, and some of it goes into the general fund. But again, the main structure of most cities in most states is the property taxes. That's the main component of taxes that's considered to be relevant, that gives you the authority as a landowner, as a taxpayer of property, that gives you that authority to flex that authority to ask for better schools.
But don't this sound also familiar? When we couldn't vote if we wasn't, like we couldn't vote when we didn't own property.
Correct.
Right. So it sounds too familiar. Like I said, you can sugarcoat it how you want. They generate more money off all these other taxes than property taxes.
It is a disenfranchisement of citizens, and mostly, again, black and brown poor citizens. And there's some white folks that get trapped up, poor white folks that get trapped up in there. But most of the time, it is poor black and brown people that are caught in that malaise, unfortunately, of not being represented through taxes.
That's how they get us. They sit up there and say, well, you have to be a property owner to pay taxes to be represented, when you don't want to represent us all as a whole, but we still paying taxes.
Of course. So getting back to this first project that I had skin in the game, fighting against this Harbor East thing. They're now talking about, because of unexpected cost overruns, that basically they are asking for additional money. And it was expected at that time during the next Board of Estimates meeting that they were going to allocate another $39 million in TIFs and TIF bonds, bringing the total project for Harbor East, the whole Exelon project, to $164 million. Now, again, that money that was being spent on this bridge and on the infrastructure, I kept telling folks that, that's like me building a house. There's nowhere as a private owner of a land, when I go to build my house, unfortunately, I cannot ask the city or the county or the state or wherever I'm at. I can't ask them to do my sidewalks. I can't ask them to do. Are you all right? I hear a lot of noise back there.
It's called drums.
Okay. That's right. You're at the marching band practice. But I can't ask the county or the city or the state to basically pay for my driveway, my sidewalks, bring in the sewer lines, bring in the water lines. All that is my expense that I have to pay in order for my development. Those are my development costs. And a lot of stuff that you see at Harbor East was picked up by the Department of Transportation money, by DPW money, and that money was funneled into the bridge, the sidewalks, the infrastructure, all that stuff, all those amenities that you see currently downtown at that Harbor East project. All of that was funded by taxpayer dollars. Now, it gets even, worse in some cases, because we know that there's a project just recently that they just finished getting money for 40 acres. I'm sorry, not even 40 acres. I'm sorry, 266 acres for the master plan of Port Covington, which has been renamed South Baltimore Peninsula or Baltimore Peninsula. It has been renamed. And I'm trying to find it. They are getting the Sagamore proposal included $327 million of its own money, but what they were looking for was $534 million in tax in increment financing, TIFs or PLIOTS, tax in lieu of financing. I actually saw where they got, I believe it was the final estimate was close to almost close to $750 million was the final money that was signed off on. They wanted more than that. They tried to shoot for over $1 billion in tax in lieu of financing down in that area. But I believe that the bond loan ended up around close to like $700 and some odd million and tax in lieu of financing. And I don't think that folks understand what this tax in lieu of financing does, and what it proposes as far as taxes coming into the city. And I'm going to give you an example. So Tax breaks comes back to bite Baltimore. This is an article back in 2015, written by Dan Rodricks, my man Dan Rodricks from the Baltimore Sun. And it talks about that back during the first wave of Big John absurdity, and Big John is John Pakarakis. It says huge property tax breaks for politically influential developers of commercial real estate in Baltimore. I made jokes about it, he said. I thought that it was ridiculously funny. It was also outrageous, but no one had to laugh. But no one had to laugh, or no one's head would explode. Big John refers to John Pakarakis, the multimillionaire bakery king. Now he owns H&S Bakery. He's no longer a millionaire. By the time he died, his net worth was over $1 billion some odd dollars. His family, his children fought over that wealth, and it was exposed that he was already a billionaire when he died. So this says multimillionaire. He had reached the billionaire status. And the developer of Harbor East, and we're talking about not the Harbor East where Exelon is. We're talking about Harbor East that goes in the back there where the movie theaters are, where Whole Foods Market is, the Fleet Street. All that Fleet Street development is all owned by John Pakarakis. And it says here that in the 1990s, he convinced City Hall to give him $25 million tax break so that he can build a convention hotel a mile from the Baltimore Convention Center. So he has a hotel that's over there on Fleet Street side. That's not the Hilton Hotel project. They got also money as well. And we're also in debt in reference to, and that was a partnership between the city and the Hiltons, who the Hiltons are a multi-billion-dollar family and could have built the Convention Center Hotel joint venture on their own, or got someone else to be involved in it. But instead, they convinced the city to get involved in a joint venture with the hotel that connects into the convention center. And we're actually losing money on that because tourism is down. The convention center bookings are down. We're actually losing money. And we've only been able to pay the financing on those bonds. But in this situation, Pakarakis also went to Annapolis to make sure his servants, now this is the word that Dan Rodricks uses. Dan Rodricks uses the word servants in the Maryland General Assembly to grant him full authority, to grant Baltimore the full authority to negotiate payment in lieu of tax deals, or pilots. It was the first time most of us have heard of pilots on a Big John kind of scale, on a John Pakarakis scale. I've heard about it before this actually took place. I was concerned because I had heard of some dealings. He used to have, he was able to influence, let's say allegedly, Sheila Dixon. Everybody said that he had the arm, the ear, and maybe even the bedfellow of Sheila Dixon. And he bullied the city and threatened one time to move H&S Bakery if he didn't get a tax break in reference for H&S Bakery, which they gave in. H&S Bakery still exists down there on Baltimore Street, down there in the Inner Harbor, and hasn't moved. But from what I understand, he got a lucrative deal. It says here that Pakarakis went to Annapolis to make sure that his servants in the General Assembly, gave Baltimore full authority to negotiate the pilots, the tax in lieu of the payments in lieu of financing deals. And again, this was the first time that most folks had heard of this kind of deal about these pilots. It said some of these deals would relieve developers of hotels and office buildings, stores, and housing up to 95% of their property taxes for up to 25 years. I want to say that again, family, that these deals that was negotiated by Big John, by his servants, and it says servants on here. All right, so we back at the plantation. So Master Big John went to Annapolis, pushing his servants in the Maryland General Assembly to basically put together this program, this pilot program, granting Baltimore City the authority to negotiate and put together these pilot programs. And these pilot programs, basically for developers of hotels, office buildings, stores, housing, all that stuff that you see downtown, they get up to 95% of their property taxes basically zeroed out. They're paying less than 5%. There's some people that I know of that deal with Exelon, they pay no property taxes. There's a couple of deals down there that they pay no property taxes. So I'm surprised that. Mm-hmm.
So when you look at, let's say wise business decisions across the United States, if they give tax breaks, it's like after 23, it's up to 22 to 23 years. Baltimore pushes it out to 25. And then you have other states that say, well, we're not going to give you any tax breaks because that means that we're not collecting anything. So you need to pay taxes. Why we're not following that motto? Why are we paying people to come here and develop on our land? We don't make a dime, and then next thing you know, they make money off of after the 23 to 25 years, and we still get nothing.
What I understand too with these pilots, it's not an immediate jump into paying the full property taxes. What I've actually heard is there's increments. So you may start paying 10%, 15% the next year, and so on and so on. And it's a buildup. So it's not like in 25 years you go back to paying 100% of property taxes. And I'm doing a search online, and I don't see. I'm looking all over the place. I'm trying to find any other city that has a program like this in reference to reduction of property taxes, especially on the corporate side of things. I don't see any other city. I'm searching right now, and I'm trying to see, putting into search different ways, but I don't see any other city that has this kind of lucrative, tax, incentive in reference to developers are concerned. And the thing is that we know that Baltimore City is shrinking. So we know that Baltimore City is shrinking in size. We're down to 577,000 residents in the city. And unfortunately, that means that the remaining property tax owners are responsible for paying the main bulk share of taxes around this city. And I even think in some cases, Yolanda, you're right about some things. Like, for instance, what are they doing with these additional taxes, like the bag tax money? What are they doing with these additional taxes that they put on? What are they doing with these predatory practices? Your car got to be moved every 3 days, or we'll give you a ticket. Or you got to park on the other side of the street. You're getting tickets, like and the red light cameras, the speed cameras. Like in some cases, to me, like they're doing certain things, almost kind of like the Martin O'Malley factor. The Martin O'Malley factor was he didn't call it taxes; he called it new fees. So you had the storm water tax fees, and so you have all these new fees and new taxes, and in some cases to make up for the difference of us falling short because we're not asking corporations to pay their fair share. We're willing to take someone's home.
That's the problem. That's what I have a problem with. You would rather overtax the ones who put you in office than to tax the ones who should be taxed. That doesn't even make sense to me. John Hopkins should be paying taxes.
John Hopkins gets away with it because they register as a nonprofit. So as a nonprofit, they still have a
for-profit side. Yeah, but they still have a 501c3 and a 501c4. All hospitals do.
And but in this situation, most of their money is running through their nonprofit.
Yeah, right. But you're still billing people. So that's where their 501c4 coming at. And then
what the mayor did one time was to add a bed fee. So like if you had to, stay overnight or stay a couple of days, in a room, they added a bed fee, almost like a hotel tax fee.
Yeah, you had to pay the telephone fees. Like I remember when I was the only time I've ever been admitted in a hospital is when I was delivering a child. And every time I delivered a child, they charged me for TV. They charged me for phone service, like little stupid stuff that they charged us for outside of what our insurance would actually pay for. So everything that our insurance would pay for was out-of-pocket cost. Again, Baltimore don't follow good business practice. That's why you have so many of these PRP programs coming into the city, because they make more money off of people in Baltimore City than they do in any other state. Certain things just don't make sense. And let's go back to Johns Hopkins, Exelon, and all these other people that's not required to pay taxes. And then next thing you know, our citizens are being overtaxed. If we require them to pay taxes and require these people that want to come do redevelopment or development in our city, if you start charging them taxes, we can lower property taxes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I see that there are a few other cities that did certain projects. It's not as widespread as Baltimore is. New York City has done a few deals like this. The argument has always been but the argument has always been that, well, developers won't come into the city, and develop in an area that may have been industrial, that may have been blighted. They have to come in and they have to spend a lot of money to transform the community.
So why wouldn't you hire local contractors to do it then?
But it's not about the contracting. The contractors get some of the work. We're talking about the developers that own the property. So Exelon owns that property. Exelon built that building. They own that building. And by them owning that building, there's a certain amount of property taxes that they should be paying for. Now, the theory was that, well, nobody would came into the Harbor East and develop in the Harbor East if it wasn't for these pilot programs or these TIFs. But that's not true. What I found out years later was that because of the antitrust laws and things like that, when they merged Constellation with Exelon, that the federal government required Exelon to move to Baltimore. Now, they had no other choice. They had to move here by law in order for the merger to go through, the antitrust laws, and to prevent them from losing the deal of merging the electric companies together. So they had to, no other choice. It wasn't about an impoverished community. It wasn't about an old industrial area that needed to be, ridden of blight, needed to be transformed into this new community. They had an obligation to move here anyway. So that means that technically they should have been forced to use their money, and we could have walked away from any TIF deal, because at the end of the day, based on the antitrust laws, they had to build anyway. They had to build their construction here anyway. So we didn't have to give them anything. We could have said, y'all put your money in it. At the end of the day, you got to move here anyway. So you transform downtown. And then we're not even talking about some of the things like, for instance, they found high levels of chromium down there because that was an industrial area. They had to cap off the chromium. I still ask, who paid for that? Who paid for that capping off of the chromium of the toxic metal that was found in the ground? Who paid for all that construction to encapsulate it in concrete, in certain feet of concrete? Like, all these things are questionable, because at the end of the day, it's our communities that are flipping the bill. And when we're wondering why we can't do certain things in our community, like, for instance, pay school police a decent salary to keep them in here, we're cutting the budget for the school police, according to President Boatwright of the school police union. We went from how many did he say we went from? 100 and some odd officers?
140 something thousand down to 77.
No, 100. You mean 100?
I mean, yeah, 100.
Yeah. So we had 140 plus some odd school police officers. We're now down to 70 some odd police officers, school police officers. And he said a lot of it has to do with cutting of the budget, cutting of additional perks and benefits. He said that they cut his funding.
They cut it. They apologized to them and said, well, unfortunately, we have to cut your budget. And that required a lot of layoffs. So it's not like they had to do it. Right. It was just done to do what? Where did that money go at?
Right. Well, I'm telling you where the money went. The thing is that we're in a shortfall. So because we're in a shortfall and you're not collecting taxes from all these big developers and all these big hotels and properties, since you're not collecting proper taxes from them, property taxes, you're taking money out from different agencies. It's the reason why our sanitation workers couldn't get a minimum wage. I mean, a living wage, couldn't get $15 an hour. It's the reason why our sanitation workers couldn't get PPE. It's the reason why, you know, our city workers, you know, had to use up all their comp time when they were sick because of COVID, as opposed to the city being able to take care of those who are essential service members who have to come to work. But we don't have money. We don't have additional perks and additional money to spend like that because we're not collecting from the people that are just living off of the spoils of our taxes. I mean, that's truth be told. They're living off the spoils of our taxes.
I told you that, you know, Baltimore still believe in the Abrahamic belief, whether it's in the criminal justice system, the housing system, and any other business administration in the city. I was explaining this to somebody earlier when they said the poor will be with us always, because if they're not, and all these other things, poor education and crime don't take a play in it, then basically what happens is that they get preventative money, prevention for this, prevention for that,
getting the additional federal dollars, and in some cases soliciting the state where they fall short. And but see, the problem with all of this is that most of these developers, most of these folks have the money. And what's crazy is that in that same article from Dan Rodricks, it says that many taxpayers complain about these deals. Matter of fact, one person said, really? You know, talking about Big John Pakarakis doesn't have enough dough from making millions of dollars on buns and muffins for McDonald's to finance his own hotel, you know, and pay taxes on it. You know what I mean? Same thing with Exelon. Exelon with all the rates. You know, you tell me with the 25-year deal that they got in taxable financing, we're still paying the highest energy rates in the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic.
Well, now we know why nobody else was afforded the opportunity to come in and be with their competitor.
I mean, and if you are a competitor, they're just going to buy you out anyway. You know what I mean? They're just going to buy you out anyway. You know? And here's the deal. At the time, you had a Martin O'Malley that originally the original approval of this taxation and financing. The original deal that was given to John Pakarakis was actually chaired by Martin O'Malley, and the city council voted to give Big John what he wanted, the 25-year deal.
Wait a minute, but who was on city council then?
City council president was Sheila Dixon.
And who was the council people?
The vice president was Stephanie Ryland Blake. Of course, you had Mary Pat Clark there. You had Carl Stokes there. You had Warren Branch there. You know, I can keep on going. You know, I know these people. I remember some of the hearings down there. Who? Oh,
Brandon.
Brandon was there representing the 2nd district. You know, Brandon was there. Who else? Yitzy was Yitzy there yet? Yitzy might not have been there yet.
No, Yitzy wasn't there.
No. But what's his name? Edward Slinginger, whatever his name was, he was there. Oh, I wonder if I'm trying to remember. It was at the time that Ricky Spector was still there. I think Ricky Spector was representing Gitsy's district. I mean, you know, I mean, this is, to me, it would be funny if it was a comedy skit or some sort of, you know, comedy movie, but it's not funny because at the end of the day, it really is about the people's money. And if we don't,
we are one big comedy skit across the world. They be like, let's turn on and see what dumb stuff is going on in Baltimore today. This is like watching repeats of Good Times.
Remember we were talking about that the other day, like you know, it seemed like everything that was going on, you know, and I believe that's supposed to represent Marcy Projects. Like I think everything that was going on at the time at Marcy Project, actually still today, it's kind of like Baltimore without the projects. You know what I mean?
Well, let's see what else we mimic. We mimic The Wire. We mimic New Jack City. We mimic.
Well, The Wire is us. The Wire is us. I mean,
we mimic Archie Bunker. Like, it's crazy how everybody come in and just break the backs of poor people.
Yeah,
I'm trying to make it make sense. I'm trying to see where, you know, be like, well, yeah, that might have been so we needed this, that, and the third to survive. We did not have to do that. That's why I'm saying that we need to go in and set this city charter on fire and start it over again and make it about the people.
Right. Well, that's why I hate to kind of be a cheerleader for you, my dear revolutionary queen, my revolutionary Black queen. You know, so I hate to be a cheerleader for you, but honestly, we need somebody like you in City Hall that's willing to ask these questions, that's willing to have people that are going to be your directors, that are going to challenge these things, that's going to go through. You know, I told you before, one of the biggest challenges in your administration is going to be dealing with the finance department of Baltimore City, because in many cases, you know, they're the ones that are putting all this crap in front of us and telling us this is what we need to eat, because we are the experts at financing and we know what's best for the city. But
clearly they're not the expert of people, so they need to go.
Right. Well, that's going to be a challenge, but
it doesn't matter. Wait a minute, Jason. What challenges have Black people have never faced?
Oh, I mean, I talk about it all the time. I mean, I tell you about citizenship. One of the things I talked about this week on my show, citizenship. Like we've always had to fight for it. You know, between us being represented as 3/5. You know, us being represented
would be no worse than any other fight or any other battle that we have ever come up against. Yeah. The point being, the city finance people don't look like us.
Majority of them don't,
and they don't care. And if they do look like us, they're still not us.
But it's up to us. We have to assume the power. We have to take control of the power, and that's what the problem is. And I was saying this, that I still think that the reason why we don't do our citizenry duty, the reason why we don't do it, is because we've never really understood what it meant to be citizens. Like, again, running through the rundown real quick, 3/5 of a man, things like the Dred Scott decision. You know, we were only really considered citizens until the 14th Amendment was ratified, and then even then, you know, we started these things in this country called equal but separate. So then we had to fight for those laws.
We still have the part in there about being free slaves. So you know, it doesn't matter how you try to reword it. It's the same thing. And even if you even take it out, you're still treating us as such. So that means that it's still prevalent in our everyday lives.
Oh yeah.
And until we change that dynamic right there, we'll never move forward. We'll always be stagnated, and the poor will all be with us always.
What's his name? Tyrone Bose tells me, he said, you got to really read the Emancipation Proclamation, because technically it doesn't really free slaves. You got to read it. You got to dig deep in there and understand.
Oh, I already read it. That's why I say it all the time.
Right. That Lincoln was using at the time. So again, then you had, you know, the 1960s, you know, and then we had to wait for these so-called monumental civil rights bill of 1964, you know, to come out to affirm that we are equal and not separate. You know, we had to fight for, we had to fight for something that I feel that we shouldn't have fought for in the first place, integration, which has been the curse of our community. So we wanted to integrate so bad. We wanted to desegregate things so bad. And then we even had a curse of that, you know, and it wasn't until 1968. But how did that work out
for Black people?
Oh, it didn't work out at all. We had white flight, when educational flight.
Yeah, but when we integrated, what did they do? They separated.
Correct. So they separated again.
Still at the same, like I said, just because you change the wording on something or make it seem like it's a stronger word or more accountable word, it still ends up to be the same thing for Black people. Nothing.
And even after 1968, where you had the first, when you're coming out of the 1960s, the 1964 Voters' Rights Act, and you start getting into trying to eliminate the disenfranchisement, the jelly bean test, the aptitude test, not even being allowed to get into the courthouses to register to vote. You had the freedom rides, were all about pushing the clerk's office to make sure that folks in these rural townships down south were allowing people to register to vote. Like, we've never had a time in society where we can just exercise our right to be citizens, to be included as citizens of this country. And I'm telling you that it's
because as we noticed, Jason, when we noticed, we forgot to bring the historian on today. We forgot to call her, but she takes us back to the Ark and the Dove, and it tells us right then and there at the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth, in Baltimore City, when they created this colonization, we were never afforded the opportunity to thrive nowhere in Maryland. Nowhere. And not one Black leader that we have had or have now ever fought against that. And someone needs to call in, write in, chime in, email in, and tell me why. Why?
No, that's one thing that, again, I have to champion you in reference to you running for mayor. You're the only mayoral candidate, folks. You're the only mayoral candidate that's talking about reparations and restorative justice. You're the only one, and has a blueprint for laying it out on how we should go and obtain it. No one else wants to identify that.
Huh? You know how we can identify it and we can implement it and put this plan to action and make it work? Because we have lived it our whole life.
Yeah. And we watched our parents live through it, and we've seen them suffer from their grandparents, our grandparents living through it, and then we've heard the stories of our great grandparents that have lived through it. I mean, so
yeah, but see, the crazy part is that each chance that a Black person is afforded, it gets harder to get. They make sure that we cannot achieve anything. So that's why they come up with the unachievable. Because that's why they sit up there and say stupid stuff like, what are your qualifications? And what is this, that, and the third? It's no such, nothing. And when I called the Board of Elections and I asked them, I said, well, what are the qualifications and experience to run for mayor? She said, what do you mean? I said, I need to know, is there a college degree? Is there such and such a business degree? She said, why are you asking me that? I said, because that's what people outside is asking me for.
Although you've been to college.
Right, but see, that's just another tax.
Although you have a high school diploma.
Yes.
Although you also have street knowledge.
Right.
You have knowledge of the people. So, and I'm telling you, that's important. Knowledge of the people is important. That makes me
the most valuable candidate.
Right, correct.
That makes me overly qualified. Right. So they need to be saying, well, Yolanda, you're overqualified and overexperienced to be mayor because of this. And instead, they rather lie to people and say, stupid stuff like qualifications and education. Qualifications and experience. But we got to go, Jason. It's 6:59. Yeah. But what I'm going to tell
Bob Marley used to say that basically when they asked him, was he an educated man? He said, no, he wasn't educated. He was educated from the streets. He wasn't educated in the university. He was educated in the streets, which
when times and struggles get hard, you got to choose between. When times and struggles get hard, you choose between helping people and their circumstances or going to college. Which one you think I pick?
Right. To end on this, people that has no knowledge of their history. So we don't understand why we have not been included as being equal, being citizens, being allowed us to afford the opportunity to be citizens in this country. If you don't know the history as to how we got here to this day, you're doomed to repeat your history. And that's what's happening right now. We're doomed to repeat our history each generation because we have no knowledge of how they kept us from being citizens, how they kept us from partaking in citizenship. So we have to understand that, and learn from it, and never allow it to happen again. This is going to be one of the greatest election cycles to me in our lifetime, because this is the time that we stand up as melanated people in our community. There's nothing wrong with having a black agenda. There's nothing wrong with being black and proud. There's nothing wrong with pushing together transformative and revolutionary policies that takes care of a people that's been marginalized since the existence of this township of Baltimore. So with that,
let me end with this, Jason. In the city like Baltimore, accountability and transparency mean nothing without integrity, loyalty, and honesty. Do what makes SENS to us and not what makes CENTS to them. Love you, fam. We'll catch you next Monday. Be blessed.